Had him, he was born at 6:11 in the morning on 11/6.
He was born at St. John's Hospital in Joplin.
Dylan was born, he was 2 weeks early, but he weighed 8'1". But being 2 weeks early, we didn't know anything was wrong, not a big deal.
So after he was born, they really didn't know anything. He was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, I think, healthy, appeared to be healthy. And, you know, Kara's mom got to hold him, and one of her friends got to hold him, and Kara was being nice and letting everybody else hold him.
Our pediatrician was a friend of ours, and so before he went to the office, he came through, checked on us, and he started looking at Dylan, that kind of stuff, and then he took him out of the room. I didn't think anything of it.
They did what's called an APGAR score, and that is basically just a generalized score of overall health. And his was low, and so they called the doctor in. And by the time the doctor had come in, his whole body was kind of turning grayish blue.
Then Dr. Wheeler came back in, and he said, well, something's wrong with Dylan's heart, and I've already called Kansas City, and they're going to have to, they're going to come get him.
He said, we probably ought to get Dylan baptized. And I said, what's going on? And he said, can you guys call your pastor and have him come to the hospital and baptize him?
As soon as he was baptized, then that's when the helicopter showed up, and they took me out of the room and got him prepped and ready to go, and then they stopped so I could say bye to him, and they took him off.
Around 10 o'clock, the helicopter came, and he was in this little incubator thing with all these machines hooked up to him. And
one of our friends, a detective from Carthage Police Department, drove my mom up. My boss, which was a good friend of Darren's, used to be a police officer, he drove Darren and I up. And
on the way up there, I got a phone call from the doctors up there and said, we've got to take Dylan in to do an emergency procedure. And I said, well, can I wait till we get there? And they said, no, we need to have your permission. And I said, well, what happens if you don't do it? And he just said he'll die. They
didn't know if Dylan was going to make it. The entire time I kept thinking, just fix him, just fix him.
Dylan's pulmonary valve had a membrane over it, grown shut. And so that wasn't allowing blood to go through that pulmonary valve and to circulate through the lungs.
They went in the first night to see what was going on, and his pulmonary valve, they figured that his pulmonary valve was just very, very narrow, and so there was just a little bit of blood flowing through there is what they thought it was.
And it built up pressure inside his heart and inside the lower chambers of his heart. And so they had to actually go inside his heart and put a hole in between the two chambers to relieve the pressure.
They went in the cath lab with 2 wires, one on one side of the membrane, one on the other side of the membrane. And it was, one wire was hot and the other wire was like a lasso.
They did this wire perforation on that membrane. And Dylan was the 6th person to receive that ever. I asked him, I said, so what are Dylan's chances? And he just told me, 3 of them had died, 2 of them are doing great, and Dylan's the 6th.
And so before that procedure with the lasso and the hot wire, and Dylan was the 6th in the world that ever did that, before that surgery, he came to see us the night before.
He looked at me square in the eye and he said, are you guys believe in God? And I said, absolutely. And he said, pray for me tomorrow. Pray for him, the doctor, tomorrow.
And he prayed with us before he left that night. And a medical doctor that does that is pretty phenomenal.
My name is Dylan Gallup. I'm 19 years old. I was born in Joplin, Missouri, and I was born on November 6, 2002.
Dylan, he shouldn't be alive, right? He should not be here.
I've had 1 open heart surgery. I've had 2 or 3 open chest surgeries, and probably another 10 caths.
And people will talk about catheterizations like it's a big deal, and Dylan's had so many, I guess we think it's not a big deal. It's not cracking his chest open, so it's not a big deal.
My first surgery was the day I was born. My last surgery was when I was a freshman in high school, and they were all at Children's Mercy over the span of about 15 or 16 years.
And in that time, he had a BT shunt put in, and he had several other procedures.
I had open chest surgery when I was 5 or 6, somewhere in there.
And I kept asking Dr. Hubble, I said, so what kind of life is he going to have? We don't know.
I said, will Dylan be able to participate in sports? And his first answer was, what do you think about golf? Well, but he told us this. He said, don't hold Dylan back on anything. Let Dylan's body decide what Dylan can do. And so we never did. We never held him back.
It's just, God has a plan. You have no idea what it is, but God's got a plan, right?
As Dylan grew, he had different procedures to help alleviate some of those problems and help increase the blood flow.
My blood flow to the rest of my body isn't as good as it should be or as good as other people's because I still don't have a pulmonary valve and just everything in there still isn't how it should be.
Played basketball in high school, and all 4 years of basketball, and his senior year he played football. He wasn't going to let this hold him back from doing anything at all. But when we realized that Dylan was a little special with baseball was when he was 7 years old. He was better than all the other kids, and he started learning how to pitch. And so we would work out in the front yard on pitching.
He just wanted to play baseball. That's always been his goal, play baseball in college to hit that level.
I've played baseball my whole life, and then when I was a sophomore in high school, it kind of hit me that I only have a few more years left, and I just didn't want that to be over. My senior year, after COVID year, we went to sectionals, and I pitched 6 1/3 in that game before I hit my pitch limit. And earlier in the game, I also hit a 2-run home run. We ended up winning that game.
He had a tremendous game. At the end of the game, when they caught they caught the ball for the final out, everybody's running and hugging each other, and Dylan is off to the side giving praise to God. That is what I'm proud of. That right there.
Lockwood hadn't won sectionals in 25 or 30 years. So for me and everyone else on the team, it was a big deal to bring that back to Lockwood. And Lockwood's more of a football town, so you could say that people don't really care about baseball a whole lot in Lockwood, but since we went on that run and we won sectionals, it brought a lot of attention, a lot of people out to the games and back to Lockwood.
And he's overcome it. And then now he's got a scholarship to play college baseball. Whenever we were told when he's young that he probably wouldn't participate in sports.
Signing your letter of intent to play at the college level is an extremely gratifying moment. That's especially true for Lockwood senior Dylan Gallup. Gallup was born without a pulmonary artery, a heart defect that could have easily taken his life. But after a number of surgeries, he's now healthy, and today signed his letter of intent to pitch for the Evangel baseball team.
My first call was my sophomore year in high school, and As a 16-year-old, that's pretty exciting to hear from a college coach. And Coach Brand got back with me. He wanted me to come throw a bullpen, so I came to Evangel and threw a bullpen, and after that, he offered me a scholarship.
Before we were even done at Evangel, Dylan's like, "This is where I want to go." It's like, "All right, buddy, there's some other places that want to look at you."
Evangel was the perfect fit for me. They offered me a scholarship, and I took that pretty quick.
God's just made him work with what he has. It's pretty cool.
Dylan's just a good kid. He's every parent's dream.
Super responsible with finances. He's a phenomenal older brother. Caden, his younger brother, looks up to him like nobody's business. He takes the time to spend with Caden, so that's pretty great.
As much as I've overcame with my heart problems and achieving my goal of being a college baseball player, I just want to be remembered as a guy who's, just a good person, somebody who people enjoy being around, a good follower of Christ, just leading by example, and just being a good, friendly person in life, and not just playing baseball. The Bible says in Joshua 1:9, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord thy God is with you wherever you go." And that was my confirmation verse, and that's just something that I've tried to live by throughout my life and anything that I do.